It's time for Tiger Talk on the Tiger Sports Network. Tiger Talk, live from Tiger Club inside the Robins Center on the Fort Hays State Campus, is brought to you by these premier Tiger sponsors. Golden Belt Bank of Hayes and Ellis, banking one story at a time. The Hayes Med Orthopedic Institute, expertise, technology, compassion, all right here. BTI, your John Deere dealer with locations in Buckland, Great Bend, Greensburg, Hoxie, Ness City, and Pratt. BTI, our family in partnership with your family. Eagle Radio, Hull Broadcasting, and HayesPost.com, keeping our community connected. And The Taco Shop. Order by phone or use the Taco Shop app. Dine in, pick up, or delivery. The Taco Shop. You've never had it so good. Now, Tiger Talk with the voice of the Tigers, Gerard Wellbrock.
And good afternoon. Welcome to Tiger Talk. We're live at the Robins Center on the Fort Hays State University campus, part of Tiger Club, and we're glad to have you with us here on this Wednesday as we talk Fort Hays State University athletics. Winding down. This is our next to last show of the 2024-2025 school year. One more next Wednesday. It's my last show. I'm going to be out of town next Wednesday, so my final show of the year, Dustin Armbruster will fill in next week for our final show. We've got a lot to cover today. Give you some results of what happened at Fort Hays State here the last week. We're going to talk track and field. Jason McCullough will join us. Softball with Adrian Pilkington. And then we're going to talk with Fort Hays State Athletic Director Curtis Hammocky toward the end of the show. Of course, retiring at the end of the year. And we're going to get his thoughts on, well, we'll see where it goes. Everywhere. We'll get some thoughts from Curtis. It'll be fun to reminisce here on the program here today. Again, if you ever have a question, you can chime in. Go to the fans tab on the FHSU Athletics website and click down, ask the coach, and if we use your question, a chance to win a Fort Hays State University t-shirt. All right, track and field. We're going to get more details from Jason McCullough. They had a pretty dominant performance at the Midwest Classic last Friday. That was hosted by Emporia State. They'll be splitting their squads into two meets this week. We'll talk more about that and let Jason give you all of the details on that. Fort Hays State baseball, no Justin Wickert today. They are in Emporia. Big game with the Hornets later this afternoon as the Tigers take on ESU. And they are coming off a non-conference split. The weather kind of wreaked a little bit of havoc with the weekend forecast. They changed their three-game series to a two-game series with UC Colorado Springs out of the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. And the Tigers won the first game 6-3, but then lost the second contest by a final score of 8-2. So they are still doing well, 23-9 overall, 17-4, still in first place atop the MIAA. Again, at Emporia today, and that is a, 4 o'clock start. And, of course, you can follow it on the MIAA network. 4 o'clock at Emporia, and then the Tigers are back at home this weekend with the big three-game series with Northeastern State. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday's game is at 5, so a little bit later than normal as the weather warms up. 5 o'clock on Friday. 3 o'clock on Saturday, and then noon on Sunday. We'll have the Friday game on Tiger Radio Mix 103.3. And then they go on the road for 4 at Washburn, midweek next week at Newman. And then they close, they're starting to wind down their final homestand in a couple of weeks. Emporia State on the 22nd. That'll be a week from Tuesday. And then on the 25th, 26th, and 27th, baseball will host Northwest Missouri State. And April 25th, that Friday night, is the annual Pack the Park game. So spread the word. It's a fun Fort Hays State baseball team, nationally ranked, and hope to get a big crowd out at Larks Park. That will be a 7 o'clock first pitch on Friday, April 25th. And then the first weekend in May, they're at Rogers State, and then on to the MIAA tournament if they continue to play well, and hopefully even more than that. So that gets you up to date with baseball. Softball at home this weekend. They dropped 3 out of 4, split with Northeastern State on Sunday, and then Monday got swept by number 11 Rogers State. They're on the road. Doubleheaders at Newman and number 5 UCO this weekend. Following weekend, Missouri Southern and Pitt State. Just one more home doubleheader for Tiger softball. That'll be on April 26th, a Saturday, with Nebraska Kearney. And, of course, Fort Hays State will be hosting the MIAA tournament, and that will begin on April 30th. So the Tigers hopefully can continue to play well, get in, and get some home games for the conference tournament. Golf, they were in action this weekend. The men finished 16th at the Firekeeper Open in Mayetta, north of Topeka. Their leading golfer kind of golfed unattached for this. Jordan McCaslin golfed as an individual and finished 7 over for the tournament. The women were 19th at the Spring Regional Preview at Monkey Island, Oklahoma. And a tough course there. Shayla Nordland led the way with rounds of 79 and 81 and tied for 64th at 16 over par. And women's tennis, they were at home. They took on Emporia State and Washburn last week. Emporia State on Monday. It was a busy day out at the complex, and the Tigers lose 6-1 in that. They are back at home. Friday, Arkansas Fort Smith. Saturday, Northeastern State. Next Tuesday, Kansas Wesleyan, and next Wednesday, a week from today, at home against Nebraska Kearney. So final chances to see the Tiger tennis team when they play at home. All right, we'll move on. We'll get the coaches up here in just a minute. Need to remind you that Tiger Talk is brought to you by Golden Belt Bank of Hayes and Ellis. Golden Belt Bank wants to get you to know your story. Golden Belt Bank of Hayes and Ellis. Visit them online at goldenbeltbank.com. And a reminder, the Kansas Department of Transportation and the Drive to Zero Coalition invite you to join Fans of the Plan. If you're going to be drinking, always designate a sober driver. We'll take our first break. When we come back, we'll talk some track and field with Jason McCullough. That's next on the Tiger Sports Network, built by PwC.
He bobbles it to the 10-5, touchdown.
Into the edge, and Hayes High's going to win this football game. Johnny Wriggler is on the spot.
Fire up the 3 and make it home as it swirls.
Launches a 3, bang, nothing but net.
It's dropped in left field, and we are tied as 5 touchdowns.
He didn't get that. Hayes High wins in overtime.
There's an off-speed pitch. Runner goes, throw to second. They got her. Maddie Pierce throws out her 8th base runner of the year, and the inning comes to an end. Have some of the action from Monday, Fort Hays State and number 11 Rogers State. We'll talk some softball with Adrian Pilkington here in just a little bit. But right now we're going to talk a little track and field with Jason McCullough. But first I need to remind you that Tiger Talk brought to you today by the HaysMed Orthopedic Institute, the most comprehensive orthopedic care in western Kansas. Let the experts at HaysMed Orthopedic help you move freely. Learn more at haysmed.com/orthopedics. We're joined by track and field coach Jason McCullough. Tigers in Emporia over the weekend, the Midwest Classic hosted by Emporia State. Pretty good showing for Fort Hays State in what turned out to be less than ideal weather-wise. And we've talked about it in the program before. You've really been dealing with weather and bad weather, and it wasn't a great day for that, at least in that regard on Friday.
Yeah, the Midwest Classic became a typical Midwest day in April, and it wasn't the best weather. It was it rained a lot of the day. It was kind of misty. It was cold. I went through about 4 sets of hand warmers, and so it wasn't the best day for competition. For some events, it was fine. You know, some of the distance stuff was fine, but you can imagine like events like the pole vault or the throws where you have to have a good grip and good footing, the jumps. You know, it wasn't the best day for those events.
Well, a lot of your distance runners do or did cross country, and they get a run in some pretty bad weather themselves. So, as you said, they're probably a little bit more acclimated and used to that a little bit.
Yeah, and it's more conducive to their event. So, you know, for a long distance runner, 50, 60 degrees is ideal. But for a sprinter, you know, they want it to be 80 or 90. You know, the throwers want it to be a little bit of a breeze and warm sunshine, and the coaches like it to be warm and sunny too.
Always is.
So, yeah, it wasn't the best day, but we did have some good performances. You know, technically we won the meet with the men and the women. They scored it, and we won both. We had a lot of good performances from our younger athletes. I had a couple victories, and then several people placed in the top 3 or 4. So it was a really good performance, especially for our younger athletes.
Yeah, maybe give some of the highlights. What stands out with some of the performances? I know Annabeth Ballman again had a pretty impressive performance in her multi-event wins.
Yeah, she won, and she actually had to stop early because her last vault, her hand slipped and she slipped right into the pit.
Oh, wow.
And so we kind of stopped it early, and then her pole broke. Someone else broke it, wasn't her.
Okay.
So we scrambled to get her something else that she's going to be able to jump on this week. But yeah, she won. She's undefeated this year outdoors. Reba Mater won the 400, had a good showing, and then Eden Bathurst, a freshman, won the 800. So we had a couple victories there, and just some good competition. Like we didn't compete some of our top athletes. A couple of our national qualifiers still haven't really competed. Jacob Clark's still nursing an injury, and he hasn't competed. And then Nolan Churchman, he will open up in the multi this weekend. Okay. So some of our top athletes haven't competed, or they haven't competed in their main events, but it's been pretty good so far.
When you have a pole break for the pole vault, it's, we're going to have Adrian Pilkington, softball coach, on a little bit. I mean, you just don't get a brand new glove and you put it on and go play. I mean, you break it in, you got to do, get it ready. Is it that way with a pole for pole vault as well?
I mean, you don't really have to break it in quite so much, right, but you got to locate it and you got to have it shipped somewhere and find it. And,
so it's more of a logistical problem.
Yeah, and you try not to let administration know how much you spent on it, but then you have to get that pole and get it in the hands of the athlete. And you probably do need to let them try it a few times, because every pole is a little bit different. They bend a little bit different, even if they're the same specs, the same size, the same weight.
The pole vault's such a unique sport. I mean, I'm sure, like anything else, you get different shafts for your golf clubs. Is it similar with pole vault, how the bend and all that? Or are they all pretty universal?
No, they're different. They have different flexes. What they call is how much they flex, and then just based on the weight capacity, they bend a different way, and then also based on the brand. Oh. You could have two different brands, and they would bend a different way. And so we go with one brand, UCS. We do that just so they're all pretty standard. But yeah, they are a little bit different, and it also depends on your tailwind. So are the conditions good? If it's warm, it's going to respond a little bit better. If you have a tailwind, you're going to be faster, and so you may have to get on a bigger pole. So
I was going to ask you, they mix things up depending on the weather?
And when you go up heights, you have to get on a bigger pole. So athletes will typically bring 3 or 4 or 5 poles to each competition, and the better they get, the bigger poles they get on.
You mentioned getting some good competition for your younger runners and in-field event people. That sometimes can be challenging, but good to I mean, you can practice and do all those things, and I know they're the future of the program, but to get out and it's like game reps, just there's so much more to actually get to go and compete in a meet against other people is so valuable.
Yeah, and Emporia is not too far away, so it's a short trip. We can take a lot of our younger athletes and see what they're made of, and a lot of them did surprise me. Had some good performances, and it's good to get them out there to compete, to see what they're going to do, if they're going to help you in the future. A lot of these athletes that make it to nationals, they're not too much when they first get here, and they develop, and that's one thing I like about Fort Hays and the athletes we get. We develop them well. You just have to be patient with them, and they have to have some success.
Right.
So meets like this where they can go and they can win, or they can hit a good performance, it really motivates them. That's probably the biggest motivator for athletes, when they see that performance increase or they get that first victory. That really motivates them, and that's what spurs them on.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it can be a grind of a season and challenging in that regard, and I'm sure they put in a lot of work, but you don't always see the rewards, and obviously it's key when they do.
Yeah, it's not like high school where we're competing every single week. Right. Sometimes they take a week off. Certain events you might take 1 or 2 weeks off, and some of the top meets we go to, some of those younger athletes can't even get into those. And some of those athletes in the past that haven't got into those end up developing and becoming really good athletes. So it's trying to find the right meets to go to so your athletes can develop, but also focusing on your top end athletes as well.
Yeah, all the process for those youngsters, and hopefully they all keep sticking it out and keep getting better. You mentioned getting some people back. What is the health of this squad? How you doing right now?
Oh, I think like most squads, we're dealing with quite a few injuries. So we have some injuries to a few of our vaulters and our sprinters, and we're trying to bandage a few of them up, hold them off till the end of the season. Hayden Albright's one of our top sprinters, and he's got a foot injury that he probably should not be competing, but he's a 5th-year senior. We're going to try to practice him and compete him lightly, use him in the relays, and have him finish out his career as good as he can. So athletes like that, we do have several that we're redshirting, especially on the middle and long distance side. And a lot of these are younger athletes that they're going to help you in the future. So you don't want them to get hurt and have a debilitating injury for their career.
All right, you're going to be splitting squads this upcoming weekend. The Joe Meeker Classic in Maltese and Canyon, Texas, West Texas A&M University, and the KT Woodman Classic in Wichita. Always a prestigious meet. Tell us about the plans for the weekend.
Yeah, I've told you before, you had to find the right meets for the right athletes. And so one meet could be perfect weather for one athlete, but not for a different event. So we're going down to West Texas with our sprinters, our jumpers, our vaulters. And it's typically a good place for those events. They run pretty fast, and for some reason, even if it's windy, those times are legal. So I don't know if someone's standing in front of the wind gauge or if it just angles at a certain way that they still run fast. So that's our goal. We're going to try to run fast in the relays, the 4x1, the 4x4, and then they have a multi down there too. So Nolan and Drew are going to do the decathlon. So they're both doing the decathlon, which is 10 events over 2 days. And then they're both really good sprinters, so they're going to run on our 4x4 the third day. So they're going to be pretty busy with 11 events. But it's supposed to be 80 and I think even 90 on Saturday. So it should be good weather for those events. We're going to Wichita on Friday with our distance athletes and some of our throwers. And that's a good place. It's a distance festival. And so a lot of times the wind calms down in the evening. That's kind of the goal. And so it's in the evening. I think it starts about 6. The last race will get over about midnight.
Oh, wow.
So it's a long night, but it's usually the best weather of the day for distance running. And so we're going to take those athletes there to try to get some good marks.
And we've talked before we went on. It seems like Monday has been the good day every last couple of weeks. And unfortunately, you have no meets. It's a little bit harder to move a track and field meet, I'm sure, than as we see some of the other sports able to juggle and move around the weather. It's a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but yeah, Mondays have been beautiful. We'd love to have a track meet on Monday or sometimes Wednesday or Thursday, but it seems like once we get to Friday or Saturday, that weather deteriorates pretty quick or gets really windy. And so in outdoor, you typically have a way to move your meets maybe 1 or 2 days if you do it ahead of time and you have a backup plan. And so we did move the Kearney meet from Saturday to Friday a couple weeks ago, and that was beneficial for us. It just pretty much rained from Thursday to Saturday in Emporia, and there wasn't much good weather. So we just kept it on Friday. When we have our meet, it's on a Thursday. If that's a terrible weather day and Friday looks better, if we can do it, we'll move it to Friday. So some schools do that if they're capable of doing that, especially for smaller meets. You get to really big invitationals like KU Relays or other big events. You just got to go with it.
Well, hopefully the weather cooperates this weekend and allows your student athletes to get some of those good marks. You continue to try to qualify for nationals. Where you kind of sit in that regard right now with some of your people?
Yeah, we've had a few that qualified. So Annabeth for sure will go in the pole vault. We hope to get Jacob back, whether it's the week before or the week of conference. We'll see what we do here in the multi. We should have a couple people. We're really looking forward to the right now our 4x1 is ranked pretty high, but we may need to run faster there. So the 4x1, the 4x4 has a great opportunity. We could get a possibility of a couple distance athletes, Emily Dierks in the 5K, if we can get her in a good race and in good weather. And then our discus thrower, Emma Slade, maybe even Liberty Booker in the hammer. So we have some opportunities to get several people there. We'll see if they can put it together on those days and we can get good weather to cooperate.
All right, hopefully so. Hopefully that'll be the case this weekend. Jason, as always, appreciate your time, and go get them this weekend.
All right, thanks, Gerard.
There you go, Jason McCullough. That is the head track and field coach at Fort Hays State University. Again, you can go to FHSUathletics.com, and you can follow all of the action this weekend. Tiger Talk today is presented in part by the HaysMed Orthopedic Institute, the most comprehensive orthopedic care in western Kansas. Let the experts at HaysMed Orthopedic help you move freely. Learn more at haysmed.com/orthopedics. We'll take a time out. More to come here on Tiger Talk on the Tiger Sports Network, built by PwC.
Being a foster grandparent has definitely given me a purpose in life.
Just been so happy, just so much more energy than being at home alone doing nothing but watching TV. It's the best part of my life.
Best part of being a foster grandparent volunteer, watching the light up in the kids' eyes.
I'm living again, and the foster grandparent did that for me.
The pitch. Line into center field, base hit. Here comes Pierce around third. There'll be no throw, and the Tigers are on the board on an RBI single from Lexi Moore. Yeah, some of the action from Monday as the Tigers take on number 11 Rogers State. Hey, look your best on Tiger Game Day with official Nike gear from BSN Sports and the Sideline Store. Go to Fort Hays State's website, athletics website at FHSUathletics.com. Click on Shop. That's where you'll find hundreds of products and designs, and it's all customizable. FHSUathletics.com. Click on Shop and open up the Tiger Team Store. Joined now by head softball coach Adrian Pilkington. Kind of a rough weekend at home. Tigers splitting with Northeastern State Sunday and then losing a couple of games to number 11 Rogers State on Monday. Obviously, the weather kind of changed the schedule really for everybody. Pretty much everybody moved their games around the MIAA, and probably the one that got away against Northeastern, the first game of the series. You had a lead going to the 7th. I think it's the first time you've lost a lead when leading after 6, and then you end up settling for the split. And with Rogers in the next day, that was kind of probably the biggest pill to swallow from this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly wasn't the outcome we were looking for. We had an opportunity to go ahead and close it out, and I thought they just kind of had some well-placed hits that were just really hard to defend against and found some holes. And, unfortunately, we weren't able to pull ahead in that bottom of the 7th.
But it was nice to see your team bounce back in game number 2. You got a 5-1 victory and just kind of took care of business, got good solid pitching, and just a good solid win.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we did a lot better job around the ball, pitching, hitting as well in that second game. So, have to go get them when you can, and that was an important one for us. And
then Rogers State, number 11 in the country. It's kind of interesting. They're ranked 11th, but yet we're in 5th place in the MIAA, which probably says a little bit about the conference this year. And you knew it was going to be a challenge. They're not too far removed from a national championship. They tied for the regular season title, won the conference title, made the super regional last year. A really good team, and your gals battle, but just could never quite get over the hump in either of those 2 games.
Yeah, I think we had some opportunities where we got the game close and within reach, and it's a tough lineup to consistently face. We in both games we're coming around to our pitchers having to throw to them 3, 4, even 5 times, and so that just gets tough to keep kids off balance. They kind of start to figure it out, and they know what to expect by the 3rd, 4th plate appearance. So I thought we did a pretty good job, honestly, attacking their pitchers, and we found some good hits along the way. And again, we just had a bad inning or 2 where it just really got away from us. And they're a great team. They always are. They do things well on all sides of the ball. But I thought we were right there in it with them, and we made some mistakes that we couldn't afford to make. When we knew going into the weekend we were going to have to play our best ball, and unfortunately it just was a weekend where we didn't.
Yeah, you look at the final scores from the Rogers doubleheader, and it's very misleading because you were in both of those games until you weren't. But it was the defense. You drop a pop-up near the plate, and you make that, who knows, maybe it's a 1-run inning. It turns into a big inning, and then the game gets out of reach. That's probably what the frustrating part, because you were right there and competing and in a position, and then things that really haven't happened a whole lot this year happen.
No, I mean, we've done a pretty good job there. I think the game just got fast for the kids, and we made some mistakes that were, a little bit youth mistakes for the most part, but at the same time, we had 2 dropped fly balls on 1 hitter, so we had our outs and we had our pitchers out of a jam, and unfortunately we made the mistake, and then it just kind of snowballed a little bit from there.
What's the toll on a pitcher when, they know they should have got the out, and then maybe should have got the out again, and then they have to keep facing the batter? I know they put on a brave face, and that's part of being in a team sport, but it's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, it absolutely is frustrating, being in the circle in those moments, and you get an out. But at the same time, there's just so much give and take.
Yeah.
Sometimes they bail you out in the defense as well. They make a great play behind you where you gave up a hit, or throw a runner out on a bag where you gave up a hit. So I think for the most part, it's as tough as it is. You understand that, hey, I give up and they give up, and it's just a give and take.
And in one of those innings, I know that kind of put the game away for them. You had 2 outs and just could not get the 3rd out. Made some good pitches. They didn't exactly tear the cover off the ball. They just got found the holes, and that's gotta be frustrating for everybody, because you're doing everything right, and they're not hitting the ball in the right spot.
Yeah, it certainly can be deflating for the defense, but I really thought we did a good job of just kind of controlling what they did at the plate. They did get 2 home runs on the day, I believe, but there were a lot of singles and some doubles. I felt like we minimized the damage and kept it within reach at a lot of points, and I think our pitchers, they're they're going to give up hits. When their best hitter is hitting 500 and their worst hitter is hitting 300, we have to know that the ball is going to get put in play. And we did going into it. But like I said, I just think we made a couple fundamental mistakes that we can't make, especially when we're facing number 11 in the country.
You mentioned some youthful mistakes, and it's you have a veteran team and some players that have been around this program a while, but yet you have a lot of newcomers out there for the first time. How do you feel they've come along? I mean, it seems like they've adapted pretty well. They've kind of been thrust into a role maybe they didn't even expect going into this season, certainly in a freshman campaign.
Well, they've absolutely been thrust into some roles that even we didn't expect them to play. You know, it was one of those things like you get your freshmen in, you get them, behind the upperclassmen, let them get their feet wet, let them learn, let them grow. And of course, with some of the injuries that we've had, they've just kind of been inserted into a lot of different positions, even in such positions that they don't actually play. So I think we have a lot of athleticism in those young kids, but it is kind of split down the middle. I mean, we are starting an entire freshman outfield for the most part. And then we have, we have Lexi at third, who hasn't played third at all. So, there's definitely some youth and some inexperience out there, as much as there are, veteran players on our team.
All right, on the road now. It's hard to believe you have one more home doubleheader. That'll be Nebraska-Kearney on the Saturday, April 26th. And you look, you're in a nice spot. You're still in that top 8, but it's slipped a little bit, and some work to do before the conference postseason tournament, and a big stretch here the next 2 weekends. At Newman for 2 on Friday, and then you're on the road at Central Oklahoma, who leads the conference, number 5 in the country. And then the following weekend, Southern and Pitt State on the road. Pitt's having another great season, but these next 2 weeks are very, very crucial for your season.
Yeah, they're absolutely important for us. And I'm just looking at the standings saying, I want to see how far we can climb. I'm not running away from the challenge. I don't think our kids are either. We do have some tough games coming up, but we're not looking at that bottom half saying, I hope we end up here. We're still chasing as much of the top as we possibly can, and I think we're fully capable. We just got to get some things cleaned up and back on track for our girls. I think they've put together a really good season. They've competed well. They've been very tough, minded in terms of that, and I think they've gone out and got some games that, they've had to really work for. So, that's just our focus going forward is, how high can we climb at this point, and, just take it one game at a time.
We've talked about some of the youth, and you kind of touched on it after the game Monday. It's a long season, 56 games, and even for the veterans and with different positions, how are they hanging in there in that regard? I say health-wise in a sense, because obviously you go through a long season, you're going to be sore. You play a lot of games, but just the mental side of this thing, you feel they're doing all right?
Yeah, it can absolutely be grueling, but at the same time, listen, these kids, some of the kids that we have in the field have started every game since their freshman year, so it's not they're accustomed to it. They at least know what to expect. Where I think the freshmen are just like ignorance is bliss. It's like, bless your heart, you just show up and you give us everything you have every single day, and you don't know any different and you don't know any better. So I think it's actually a good balance.
All right. Well, big weekend this weekend. Maybe a preview Newman, and obviously UCO is great. They seem like they're good every year, being in Edmond, and they get a lot of great transfers to fill out their roster. But Newman, maybe a little preview on to see on Friday.
Yeah, I think they really struggle on the mound, so it's an area that we need to focus on and make sure we take advantage of, which is an area that we're quite good at for the most part. So, I think we need to set our sights on one game at a time and just really focus on putting together quality at bats. And I think if we can do that, it's going to take a lot of stress off our pitching and our defense. So that's our focus. And, like I said, I felt like we did have some good at-bats versus Rogers. So, I have the same expectation going into Central Oklahoma. They have more pitchers than they have in the past, but they're certainly not as dominant on the mound as they have been. So, we're just going to focus on areas that, we can have a good plan of attack and just hope we can execute come game day.
All right, sounds good. Coach, as always, we appreciate the time. Go get them this week in Wichita and Edmond, and then the following week, Joplin and Pittsburgh. And again, April 26th, final home doubleheader against Nebraska-Kearney, and then the Tigers will be hosting the MIAA tournament, which will begin on April 30th. Coach, appreciate the time. Good luck this weekend.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
There you go. Adrian Pilkington, head coach of the Fort Hays State softball team, with us here on Tiger Talk. This program today brought to you by the Taco Shop. Order by phone or use the handy Taco Shop app. Whether it's dine-in, carry-out, delivery, the Taco Shop, you've never had it so good. We'll take a break. When we come back, Athletic Director Curtis Hammocky will join us right here on Tiger Talk on the Tiger Sports Network, built by PwC.
That was Another Legend on 99 KZ Country. And yes, before that, we had a brand new artist. Your home for today's stars and the legends. We play real country. I'm Teresa Trapp. Weather, news, sports, it's all here. We're on Facebook, and there is a listen live link at hayespost.com. Dial us in on your radio at 99.5 FM. KHAZ, Real Country. 99 KZ Country.
Played in both games yesterday. 0 for 1 in game 1. Did not have an at-bat in game 2. And she hits one deep in the air. Left field. Back goes Smith. And it is gone. It's a 3-run home run from Miranda. And Fort Hays State is back in this game.
Yeah, some of the action from Monday. The Tigers and number 11, Rogers State. Welcome back to Tiger Talk. It's brought to you today by BTI. They're your John Deere dealer. Locations in Buckland, Gray Bend, Greensburg, Hoxie, Ness City, and Pratt. BTI, our family in partnership with your family. As I mentioned, I'm not going to be here next week, but Dustin will fill in. But we want to get Curtis Amicky on one of these programs here as we wind down Tiger Talk and Tiger Club for the season. Of course, for those who don't know, Curtis will be retiring at the end of this, I guess, fiscal year, and wanted to get him on here, and certainly appreciate you taking a little bit of time to chat with us. And it's been a wild ride from the former Fort Hays State pitcher turned coach, then back as the athletic director. You've seen quite a bit in your day here.
Seen a lot of Hays.
There you go.
Seen a lot of Hays. Yeah, it's been home, so yeah, it's bittersweet time. And
yeah, and obviously a lot goes into a decision like that, and there's never a good time to, when is the right time to hang it up. But when you look back, and I'm sure you've been asked this a lot from a lot of people, anything stand out in your time at Fort Hays State as the athletic director from when you first got here?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is all the people and just the relationships.
Well, and this room here is obviously a very, very important one, the group from Tiger Club, and we certainly appreciate them coming out here every Wednesday to hear from us and hear from the coaches and get an update. As you look at this MIAA conference, and that's, Fort Hays State made that jump. Just talk about that, because it was an RMAC school and moving back, and I know at the time you just talked about getting back together with your peers, the rest of the Kansas schools, what that's meant for Fort Hays State. Yeah,
well, first of all, I want to say you guys all noticed how good Gerard was right there, because I was about to start crying. So he interrupted and started talking and went on shifted into a whole other gear. But, I really just wanted to say how much I appreciate all the people. Not only the constituents like we have here with Tiger Club and our season ticket holder people and difference makers, all those groups and entities that we have. A lot of special relationships there, but the people that we work with in the office every day, Brad and Matt and Dixie and Ashley and Keegan, those Ryan, Seth, the ones that are internal administratively, to make the job palatable when you're busy, when you're working something a lot of hours, you need to enjoy the people you're around. So I've really enjoyed that. And certainly everybody here in this room today. I look out here at the crowd. I know, I look over there at Dennis Hebner. I remember the night I decided I wanted to go play some snooker at his house because I thought I was pretty good. We played snooker growing up, right? And so Dennis says, I got a snooker table. I said, well, when can I come over? And so I ended up going over there, and he beat me 10 straight games. And I think, in snooker, you can at least luck into one win, but that guy beat me 10 straight, had no mercy, and I haven't been back. He's invited me back a few times.
I'm sure he has.
But I have not been back. I just don't want to feed that for him. I'll, be that sacrificial lamb for Dennis. But on the same token, his wife's sitting there, Debbie, who makes all these killer cookies and brings them out. And that's just one little story. That family right there, how cool they've been. But a ton of those type of stories. But going to the MIAA was a big deal back in the day. Coming out of the RMAC, we all knew our coaches, our athletes. You go in the RMAC. The RMAC to this day is pretty strong on the top. There's just not the depth of that conference that there is in the MIAA, which is unbelievable. But there was times in the RMAC when you knew if you got your bus out there, you were going to be okay. You were going to be able to win that game. That's not the case in the MIAA. There's just no one. You got to be ready to play every week. which is exciting and challenging. But I think that's the league we went in. I remember talking to Dr. Hammond about that a long, long time ago, and how moving into this league with Emporia and Pitt and Washburn, that felt like that's kind of where we belonged. We had all these in-state schools, even though we knew it was a stronger challenge because of the Northwest Missouri, the Central Missouri, and all these things. So we accepted that challenge and took that on. And then, you go through the years, and I remember saying to him, boy, if we can do well in the MIAA, my dream is to host a football playoff game. And I can still remember when not only did we host, we got a first-round bye, and then that stadium was about to collapse over here at Lewis Field. We did not win, but we got to host that game there in Hayes, and it was really, really special. Ferris State was phenomenal. They were a really good program, and so we stumbled into a buzzsaw there. But getting in the football program to that point where we actually had a home playoff game here was incredible. Football going up to Northwest Missouri 2 years in a row. Now, you got to understand the context of this. I've been to Northwest Missouri when we got beat 77-10, right? In the rain.
Yeah.
Okay, so you
had the ball for 45 minutes that game.
That's right. And you remember that day when you're playing for the conference championship several years later, and we're in Maryville, and we win that game on their field 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Go there again the next year and play for the conference championship at their place and win that game. Okay, and then someone says, no, you guys can't take pictures on the field. Yeah, we're going to take pictures on the field. We would let you take pictures on our field, and we're definitely going to take these pictures on the field. And so we did. But I remember that when I look back. I remember the indoor facility getting built. I mean, that's always something that's going to be really, really special to me. It was something we really felt like we needed. That took 6 years, I think, just to get it from thought process and get it in motion, to getting it to be Dr. Hammond's idea, right? For that to happen, it had to become his idea. And it did.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so then that came into play, and we got to see that place built, and I'll never forget that all my life, just watching that get constructed. And now it's kind of cool watching the new building getting built in the south end zone right now. Annette and I, my wife Annette and I, walked through there Sunday. We probably weren't supposed to be in there, but she said, "You think we could go inside?" And I said, I guess we probably could. So we did.
What are they going to do, fire you?
Yeah, I guess so. And so we got to go walk through there, and you can see where the walls are going to be. You can see the theater-style seats for the team meeting room on the second floor. You can see the balcony and how close it is to the netting on the end zone there, how exciting that's going to be. I'm really looking forward to that and seeing that get finalized. That'll be done in November, December.
Right.
Right now they're doing the football turf. They just started taking it up. So we'll have a new turf down here in June, and we're excited about that. But all of the facility stuff, Gerard, like I said, first and foremost, the relationships, that's the biggest deal. The second thing is all the facility development over the year. Spending so much time with our staff trying to decide what we wanted our basketball court to look like. What are we going to put on it, right, Matt? You know, and then you got Matt and guys like that got some really cool ideas, and I'm super boring, so I'm hanging on to mine, and we stay pretty basic with it, but yet clean and sharp, I think. And then we go design the football field. We get a tiger head in it. We change the end zones. That was all exciting stuff. The bus, the buses. We get new buses. What are we going to put on the sides? I want them really basic. And these guys always try to add something a little sharper than I would have done, which was fun. That whole process of getting to build something, put something together, and then make it look as sharp as we could. So that all those things and the successes of the programs through the years, it's been a lot of fun.
And obviously the athletics at the collegiate level changing, and it may be not quite as crazy at this level as it is Division I, but there is a trickle down, and obviously that's probably the challenge moving forward for whoever sits in your chair in the future.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you get into the NIL and stuff like that, but like I've told several people, and I even told that story here at Tiger Club one day, I'm opposed to this NIL stuff. And going forward, I don't like where that's headed. I think it's going to hit a wall and come backwards a little bit at some point in time. But the NILs I like are the Miles Mingeses of the world. who's an All-American and All-MIAA, and on Monday mornings he's mopping the foyer over in the Coliseum, right? That's the kind of kids we have out here in Hayes that are willing to work, and we've had a bunch of those. He's one example,
right,
and he's certainly not the only one, but I think that's the kind of kid we send in to society, well prepared by working for what they get, as opposed to giving them extra.
Well, we are out of time. Wanted to get you on to get your thoughts. Certainly want to congratulate you on your career. I remember when you were the baseball coach, you still had that team. We had a terrible weather year. You probably make an NCAA tournament. Just didn't get enough games in that year. But and then to see the baseball program bounce back, that's got to be special. But just want to thank you for everything you've done. Pleasure working with you. I know we'll see you around, and just appreciate you taking a little time to chat with us here today.
Well, you're certainly one of the ones I'm talking about with all those relationships, so I appreciate it.
There you go. Curtis Ambeke, our guest today on Tiger Talk. Again, a reminder, one more program next Wednesday. Dustin will fill in. We'll talk to you then. Thanks, everybody, and that's going to do it today for Tiger Talk.
Tiger Talk, live from Tiger Club inside the Robins Center on the Fort Hays State Campus.